Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
As a single dad raising two kids, I always dreamed of giving them a stable home in a good neighborhood. After years of saving and working extra shifts at the hospital as a nurse, I finally managed to buy a house in the peaceful suburban area where my best friend lived. It was perfect, just a couple blocks from my kids' school, friendly neighbors, and that small town feel I'd always wanted for my family. My wife had passed away 5 years ago, and this move felt like a fresh start for all of us. The first 3 years were everything we'd hoped for. My kids made friends in the neighborhood. I could walk to my best friend's house for weekend barbecues, and our neighbors across the street would bring us holiday cookies every December. Life was good. Then COVID hit, and everything changed. Our neighbors across the street lost their jobs and had to move before the eviction moratorium kicked in. We helped them pack, and my kids cried when they left. Their daughter was in the same grade as my youngest. A month later, new tenants moved in, and that's when our nightmare began. The first time I met them, I tried to be welcoming. I introduced myself politely, explaining that I lived across the street with my two kids. The woman just stared at me like I was selling something and shut the door in my face. As soon as the lockdown started, they turned their house into party central. Every single night, without fail, their house would be packed with people. Cars lined both sides of our street, making it nearly impossible for emergency vehicles to get through if needed. The music was so loud that my kids couldn't sleep, even with white noise machines running. My best friend, who lived in the next cul-de-sac, would text me almost every night, complaining that he could hear the bass from inside his bathroom. I would always reply that yes, it was them again, and I'd try talking to them the next day. I tried being nice about it. Really, I did. I even brought them a six-pack of craft beer and offered to share some marijuana, hoping to build some goodwill. That's when things got ugly. The husband got in my face, accusing me of trying to bribe them and threatening to make my life hell if I didn't mind my own business. His wife, who I came to think of as Karen, joined in with her own threats, pointing out that they knew I had kids and suggesting something might happen to their bikes in the driveway. That's when I started calling the police. Every night for 4 months straight. Other neighbors joined in too, but nothing changed. One by one, my neighbors started putting up for sale signs. I couldn't blame them, but I was still underwater on my mortgage and couldn't afford to move. Then came the final straw. A police officer showed up at my door one night and told me to stop calling them. He said the noise complaints were becoming a nuisance, and they had more important things to deal with. When I pointed out the threatening behavior and noise violations, he simply told me to either deal with it or move. That's when the housing market suddenly went crazy. Houses in our area were selling for $40,000 to $50,000 over appraisal. We listed our house hoping to at least break even, and within 3 days we had multiple offers well over asking price. But one offer caught my eye. It was $20,000 lower than the others, but it came with a letter and a photo. A young couple expecting their first baby, with a German Shepherd and a patrol car in the background. The husband had just been assigned to our local police department. I knew right then what I had to do. The day we moved out, Karen and her husband were throwing another massive party. They even had the nerve to blast "Kiss Him Goodbye" when they saw our moving truck. I just smiled and waved. The next day our buyers moved in. That night, there was no party. Or the next night. Or the night after that. Now when I drive by to visit my best friend, I see Karen and her husband sitting quietly in their garage, looking absolutely miserable. Their party house has turned into a prison, with a patrol car parked right across the street. Every time I pass by, I honk and wave enthusiastically. Sometimes, if I'm feeling particularly cheerful, I roll down my window and blast "Nana Hey Hey, Kiss Him Goodbye." Last week I heard from my best friend that they put up a "For Rent" sign. Apparently, living across from a police officer isn't their idea of a good time. But the best part, no one's interested in renting their place. Seems like their reputation has spread through the neighborhood grapevine. My kids and I love our new house. It's in an even better neighborhood, and our new neighbors are amazing. Sometimes karma takes its sweet time, but when it hits hard. Let me tell you about the most entitled person I've ever met. My girlfriend and I had just moved in together a few months ago, and to save money, we decided to share a car. It wasn't ideal, but we made it work since our workplaces were only about 10 minutes apart. I'd drop her off at the hospital where she works as a nurse, then head to my job at the marketing firm. That one morning, we were both exhausted. She had just finished a string of night shifts and was transitioning back to day shift, while I had stayed up late finishing a crucial presentation for a client. We left home at 7:30, both of us clutching our coffee cups like lifelines. The morning was going as usual until we stopped at a red light downtown. We were first in line and traffic was backed up behind us. Typical rush hour stuff. I remember checking the time, wondering if we'd make it before my girlfriend's shift started. Then it happened. Wham! The impact slammed us forward, and our heads snapped back. My coffee splashed all over the dashboard, and my girlfriend's hit the windshield. For a moment, we just sat there, stunned. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw a woman in a business suit still holding her phone. Great. The woman got out of her expensive SUV, and instead of apologizing, she had the nerve to complain about being late for work and demanded we make this quick. My girlfriend and I exchanged looks of disbelief. I calmly told her we needed to exchange insurance information and document the damage. That's when she had the audacity to suggest there was no proof she had caused the damage. Something in me snapped. Maybe it was the lack of sleep, or maybe it was watching my girlfriend rubbing her neck in pain, but I lost it. I started yelling about all the witnesses in the traffic behind us, the whiplash she'd given us, and pointed out the blue paint from her car that was now smeared all over our bumper. She remained completely unfazed and, straightening her blazer, tried to intimidate me by mentioning she worked with cops. I shot back with a sarcastic comment about working with cops, saying both facts were equally irrelevant to the situation. My girlfriend tried not to laugh despite her neck pain. The woman's face turned red, and she doubled down on her threats, telling me she had connections with the police department and that I should think about that. I called her out directly, asking if she was really trying to threaten me with her accounting job at the police station. We eventually got her information, though she wouldn't stop mentioning her police department connection every couple of minutes like it was some kind of magic spell that would make everything go away. Later that day, we filed a police report and contacted our insurance, but she wasn't done. She called me directly for one final attempt at intimidation, trying to get me to reconsider pursuing the claim by again bringing up her connections. I hung up mid-sentence, blocked her number, and called her insurance company. I made sure to tell them about how she'd tried to use her police department connection to intimidate us. They seemed very interested in that detail. A month later, I found out through a friend who works at the police department that she got in trouble for trying to use her position as a civilian administrator to intimidate citizens. Apparently, this wasn't the first time she'd pulled this stunt. She was suspended from her job for 2 weeks without pay. Now, whenever I see her around the neighborhood, I give her the biggest, brightest smile and wave enthusiastically. Sometimes I even point to my new bumper and give her a thumbs up. She always hurries away, and honestly, that's better than any wave back could ever be. My girlfriend and I still share a car, but now we have dash cams installed, front and back. You never know when you might meet another Karen in the wild. I'm a 17-year-old who basically acts as a second parent to my 6-year-old sister. Our parents work long hours, so I handle most of her day-to-day care. I do my schooling online, which lets me be there for her. People often mistake me for her dad, since I look older than my age, but I don't mind. I love taking care of her. The incident happened during winter break. Indiana winters can get pretty intense, and we were having a particularly snowy day. My sister and I were in our front yard building snowmen. It's our favorite winter activity. I do the heavy lifting while she makes the snowballs. We had just finished our 4th snowman when I decided to go make us some hot chocolate. I told her to keep playing while I went to get some hot cocoa. She responded with an excited yell. clearly happy about the promised treat. Our yard has a fence, so I thought it would be fine to pop inside for just a minute. That's when everything went wrong. I was in the kitchen when I heard crying. At first, I thought maybe one of the snowmen had fallen over. I called out to her, telling her to calm down and come inside because the hot cocoa was ready. The crying didn't stop. Then I heard laughter. I ran outside without even grabbing my coat. 3 teenagers from the local high school were in our yard. I recognized one of them. He had a reputation for bullying younger kids. Our snowmen were completely destroyed, but that wasn't what made my blood boil. The main teen mockingly asked my sister if I was her dad, comparing her to Humpty Dumpty. My sister didn't answer him. That's when he did something unforgivable. He pushed her. She fell backward and hit her head on the sidewalk. Blood started pooling beneath her head, and she was screaming in pain. I rushed to help her, but the other 2 teens grabbed my arms from behind. I yelled at them to let me go, telling them she was hurt. While they held me back, the main teen started piling snow on my sister's face. Her screams turned into weak whimpers, and I've never been more terrified in my life. Something in me snapped. I bit down hard on one teen's thumb until I tasted blood. He let go, screaming, and I charged at the main teen. I'm a big guy, 6 feet tall and 330 pounds. I've played football all my life, so I know how to use my size. I tackled him to the ground and started hitting him. I only stopped when I felt something hit the back of my head. The 3rd teen had struck me with a brick. Even with blood running down my neck, I wasn't done. I slammed the brick-wielding teen into my dad's truck, then brought my knee up into his face. When he fell, I grabbed the brick and, well, let's just say he won't be using his hands the same way again. The 3rd teen ran away and called the police, claiming I had killed his friends. I managed to call an ambulance for my sister before passing out. I woke up handcuffed to a hospital bed. My hands were broken in multiple places and I needed stitches in my head, but my sister was okay. She had lost blood, but would make a full recovery. The teens weren't so lucky. The one I bit nearly lost his thumb. The brick wielder lost 3 fingers and can't use his right hand anymore. The main teen who hurt my sister got the worst of it. Lost sight in one eye, fractured skull, broken jaw, missing teeth, and almost died from brain swelling. A police officer came to question me, but after reviewing our security footage, they ruled it as self-defense. No charges were filed. The teen's parents tried to press charges, but the video showed them assaulting a 6-year-old child and attacking me with a brick. They ended up getting charged instead. Those 3 teens got expelled and faced juvenile detention. Their parents had to pay for my sister's medical bills and our destroyed property. They also had to install better security cameras around our house. My sister recovered fully and still loves building snowmen, but now we only do it in our backyard where it's safer. I did break both my hands defending her, but I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Nobody messes with my little sister and gets away with it. Those teens learned that lesson the hard way. I've been working at this large car dealership for about 7 years now as a service writer. It's a pretty sweet gig. I basically act as the bridge between customers and our mechanics. After working my way up from being a mechanic myself, I found I had a knack for explaining technical stuff to customers in ways they could understand. Plus, I actually enjoy helping people figure out what's wrong with their cars. Well, most people anyway. Let me tell you about this absolutely wild situation that happened just last week. It started out as a totally normal Monday. It was pouring rain outside, which usually means a slower day for us. This woman comes in for some routine maintenance. Nothing major, just your standard service stuff. Everything was going fine until one of our porters had a minor fender bender with her car while moving it around the lot. Now these things happen occasionally and we always make it right. My manager immediately stepped in and assured her they would fix the bumper entirely at their cost, promising not to report it on the vehicle history. He also offered her a free rental car while they made the repairs. The woman seemed satisfied with this at first, even pleased about getting a free rental. Little did we know what was coming. A week later, her car was all fixed up, looking good as new. Our manager started calling her to come pick up her car and return the rental. She kept making excuses and refusing to come in. When she finally did show up, That's when things got really interesting. She bursts into the service center, already filming everything on her phone, demanding to have her lawyer and an independent appraiser present before accepting the vehicle back. She accused us of trying to pull the wool over her eyes. My manager, keeping his cool, told her that was completely her right, and she was welcome to have both an appraiser and lawyer examine the vehicle. However, he explained she would need to return our rental car now and take her vehicle while she arranged that. She refused outright and made an even more outrageous demand. She wanted a brand new car as replacement if the repairs were imperfect. My manager denied this request and again asked for the rental keys. While this is going on, my supervisor quietly slips out and strategically parks another vehicle to block in the rental car. Smart thinking on his part. When Karen storms out, planning to drive off in the rental, she finds herself blocked in. She started screaming at the top of her lungs, accusing us of trapping her in, claiming it was kidnapping and false imprisonment. She kept yelling that she was recording everything for her lawyer. She's literally screaming at the top of her lungs in an almost empty dealership, still recording everything on her phone. My manager, still maintaining his professional demeanor, explained that her car was completely unblocked and she was free to leave in her own car at any time. We just needed the rental keys returned. She continued being difficult, screaming that she wasn't leaving the rental car and we couldn't make her. That's when my manager had enough and called the police. 2 officers show up pretty quickly. After hearing both sides, the male officer explained to her that she needed to return the rental keys, making it clear she couldn't keep their car and wasn't entitled to a new vehicle. He warned her that refusing to return the keys would result in her arrest for theft. She tried to argue that we had damaged her car, but the female officer cut her off with an ultimatum. Either hand over the keys voluntarily or she would personally remove them from her possession. She threw the keys at my manager with all the attitude she could muster and stormed off to her car. But here's the absolute best part. Remember that rental car she was trying to steal? Turns out it was actually one of our prize cars, meant for an upcoming dealership promotion. We were just using it temporarily as a loaner vehicle. A week later, I saw it being given away to the actual contest winner, a sweet elderly couple who couldn't have been more grateful. And we later found out Karen tried to leave negative reviews everywhere she could, but since she'd recorded everything herself, we just responded by posting clips from her own video showing how reasonable we'd been. Those reviews disappeared pretty quickly after that. My wife and I had been working overtime for 3 years straight to save for our dream house. Between her nursing job and my teaching position, we barely had time for vacations. When we won an all-expenses-paid luxury trip to the Maldives through a radio contest, we were thrilled. The prize included a week at a 5-star resort, flights, and exclusive excursions, worth nearly $15,000. The catch? My wife felt obligated to invite her sister who was going through a rough time after her 3rd divorce. When I expressed concerns about her sister's demanding nature, my wife insisted that family should stick together, especially when someone's feeling down. I should have put my foot down right there. The drama started at the airport. Her sister complained about flying economy and demanded an upgrade, claiming back problems. After my wife's pleading, I spent $2,000 of our savings on her first-class upgrade while we stayed in economy. Red flag number 1. At the resort, she complained about the rooms not being connected, insisting she needed constant access to us. When the manager explained they were fully booked, she tried throwing around money we weren't even spending since this was a prize package. She skipped every planned activity. The dolphin-watching cruise was too humid, the snorkeling was too salty, the spa days masseuse looked unprofessional, and the sunset cruise would make her seasick. Instead, she stayed in her room, racking up a $3,000 room service bill on our account. When confronted, she blamed us for not planning better activities. That night, my wife broke down crying, finally seeing how her sister had ruined our special trip. We made our decision. The next morning, while her sister enjoyed her fancy room service breakfast, we packed up and left. Our note at the front desk simply explained that since only room service met her standards, she could pay for it herself. We'd removed her charging privileges and reminded her that her flight home was in part of the package. She called us 47 times that day. We didn't answer. Later, we learned she had to call our parents to bail her out and pay for her flight home. She hasn't spoken to us since then. Best vacation ever. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.